I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.
Welcome back. It's Rico with the red hat. We want to go over, we're going to talk about Los Angeles for a little bit. My hometown. My hometown that I was forced to flee from because the odds of me getting killed just walking from my parking lot behind my building in downtown to the front door where you go in, the odds of me being murdered or being robbed in that parking lot skyrocketed in mid 2021 because law enforcement ceased to exist. There was a woman who lived across the street from me, and she had called the police. Someone was her ex-boyfriend was trying to break into her home and kick the door in. The police never came, but the police can't come anymore. For one thing, they can't do their job in Los Angeles because you have a mayor and a governor who insists that fighting crime is racist. So if the person who's robbing you is black or Latino, if the person who just assaulted you or shooting at you, or the person who's driving crazy or is threatening you is black or Latino, the police now are afraid individually to arrest you, to touch you, to disarm you, to even put you in custody. Because if someone's recording it, they can later say that you acted above and beyond what was necessary, you harmed this person, and that you were a racist. So now you can't really do your job. So what does that mean? People like Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom have turned over our city to the criminals. We already have no self-defense laws in California. You already can't own a gun. And they just passed a new law saying that you have the right to retreat from your home if someone does break in. People don't understand how California works. It's not like the rest of the country. But if you look at the Democrat policies, because allegedly we're a supermajority, everything about California is unconstitutional and anti-American because the whole notion of self-defense and property rights is literally what makes America America, and those are non-existent in California. So let's listen to what this dingbat has to say, and then you can kind of see where some of the problems will start. It's with our leadership. But what happens when you vote in leaders that believe in lawlessness? When does the government have to step in? That's $1 million question. Let's figure it out.
Very concerned about that. And not only that, I'm concerned about the way he is rolling that out in Washington, D.C., which is essentially going after young black and brown youth.
Well, let's see here. Who lives in the poor, impoverished, ghetto, piece of shit neighborhoods that surround our nation's capital? Only black and brown people find that lifestyle being acceptable. If you're a black or brown person and you decide you don't want to get yourself killed and you don't want your children being killed, the first thing you do when you start to work hard to earn enough to leave is you evacuate and you get away from these neighborhoods that are populated by brown and black people. What are you supposed to do? This lady is saying now, oh, he's in DC enforcing these laws against brown. So what if that's who the person, the criminal that's going after you who attacked you, if they're brown and black, what are you supposed to do then? Nothing? Just let them get away with whatever, bloody murder, because you don't want to seem like you're racist? Honestly, that word is now starting to become a compliment. If someone calls you a racist, it's like they're calling you aware. They're saying you're actually not a part of the cult. You're not a zombie, a mindless drone walking around in fear. You can't be controlled by shame. You know, if someone calls you a racist, the proper term would be to say thank you. Yes, I am. I am aware. I am not a part of the cult. I'm not afraid to speak my opinion. You know, people forget what our First Amendment is for. It's not to protect speech that people love and want to hear. Oh, black people are perfect. They don't commit crimes. Brown people are innocent and they're all victims. Even if they're here illegally, raping, killing, they still must be touched with kid gloves because, oh, they need help. Fuck that. You know, for a person with children and a family who has to work, the last thing they want is criminals with immunity in your neighborhood or in your area. This is inviting it in. And in California, again, we're disarmed. So you know what you see? A huge uptick, and you see a lot of that you don't see in other cities? You see this.
Police say they have busted a crew responsible for nearly 100 burglaries in the past several years.
Eyewitness News reporter Monica Deanda is live at LAPD headquarters in downtown LA with the details on this.
Just in the beginning of this, they said there's a crew responsible for hundreds of robberies. Do you not know that people were home during these robberies? If the robbers made it out of your home and you were there when they robbed it, you know what that tells me you were? Unarmed. What does being unarmed mean if you're a constitutionist like myself? What means you're anti-American? It's just like being an American person that doesn't believe in free speech and doesn't respect the free speech of others. That's anti-American. It literally goes against what our country stands for. Our founding fathers would not have approved of people who are American pretending that they're so helpless. What the fuck do you think we have the First Amendment for? The Second Amendment, I'm sorry. What do you think 2A is for? It's not necessarily just to only prevent an authoritarian government from taking over and putting you hostage and for them to just basically steal your property. You're supposed to be able to fight back. That's the reason why we came out of lockdown when we did. But it's also for you to protect yourself against other Americans. We have a huge problem. We don't have a race problem. We do have a problem race. And everyone wants to pretend that that's not what's happening because they've been literally neutered. They've been shamed into submission. I have not. So I will talk about it and I will keep calling it out. You do have to protect yourself. You do need weapons. But if you don't, you end up like these people.
Monica.
Philip, calling good morning. We talked to LAPD Chief Jim McDonald. He told us that the 10-person burglary crew are career criminals, and they're responsible for nearly 100 home break-ins across the city of Los Angeles.
This crew, which had victimized families and businesses.
You know, look how hypocritical this piece of shit is. She's literally speaking on black and brown men who are criminals that break into homes. But then, because she's from the black community, which is in its core a hypocritical, double standard, feminine cesspool, she's also saying this. Actually, is she wearing the same? She's dressing very similar.
In Washington, D.C., imposing a curfew, saying that if they violate the curfew, the parents could be charged $500, saying that the kids could be detained and arrested. We've tried those policies before. They do not work. And
so you've tried it and it doesn't work. So what are you trying here? What are we doing?
Is no longer a threat to our neighborhood.
This morning, LA leaders announced to take down a...
You know, she's saying that curfews and arresting kids haven't solved the problem, yet here she is right here bragging about how they arrested a gang of black men from the inner city, black and brown men, or whatever the fuck you keep wanting to associate everybody with everybody, black men that have literally made a career of breaking into homes. And I'm from LA, we call it flocking. Flocking is when you find Asian people or people from other countries, because if you come from another country, you're not necessarily going to be a constitutionalist. So you're going to be unarmed and you don't trust banks. So you keep your money in your house under the mattress. And you usually work, if you're an illegal, you work for cash under the table. So people store their money and their property in their home. These criminals know that. They know they're bigger than you in size and they're more aggressive. So they have no problem going into your home and just taking what they want. And now that the police are afraid of being called racist, if they think that the kind of crime they're being called out for is going to involve someone who's black or brown, they're reluctant to even go. Then how do you even do an investigation if you know your investigation is going to come up with someone black? You know there's not a team of people from Vietnam that are going around strong-arming people and doing home invasions. You know the only people that have the size and the strength any aggressiveness to do that are going to be from one particular race. She wants to give our cities over. I was forced to leave. I lived in a downtown LA before the lockdown was beautiful. 2019 was an amazing year. Downtown LA was back. Stores were open, clubs, bars, lounges, art walk. And I throw events all the time. I loved it. Then they locked down our city March 15th, 2020. And it made no sense. Any of the measures they took, 2 weeks to stop the spread. Everybody stayed in the house. I threw parties and was walking around outside by myself, riding scooters in the middle of the road on a Friday and Saturday night. 2 weeks later, all the homeless people are like, hey, where's everybody at? And I'm like, well, Mr. Homeless Man, you shouldn't even still be alive because they said everybody needs to stay home to stop the spread. You guys couldn't shelter in place. You have no shelter. So if you're not dead, then who is? Matter of fact, what was the purpose of any of this? None of it made any sense. After the George Floyd riots, people started noticing that when you called the police, they wouldn't show up. Because I remember people declaring during the riots that we'll do our own policing. We don't need police. And we see that those people were full of shit and they lied. They were wrong. We do need police and they could not police themselves. We have teams going around and committing crimes right now and there's no law enforcement. We need Donald Trump. I said it years ago, we're going to have to take California back because right now it's no longer under the Fed. California fell to socialists and communists years ago. And now we're trying to bring California back. They've used fraud and illegal votes to pretend that there's a Democrat supermajority. How? Is everyone in the state black or gay? Because that's the only base they have. And then the illegal voters. But if you remove the illegal votes, magically California loses 20 to 30 House seats, no longer a supermajority. Now they're saying that the population of the United States might be even over 100 million overcounted due to continuous fraud to pad the numbers to give either side the appearance that they have higher numbers than they actually do. You know, it's crazy. People are arguing with me on the internet. Donald Trump sent in the military to DC, and for the first time in God knows how many years, no black people were murdered for 2 weeks so far. You would think that black people all over the country would be celebrating it. The gay ones are not. The straight ones are. The gay ones are upset. They're saying that Trump shouldn't be able to do that. They want the crime. They want the death. Karen Bass wants the crime. She wants the death. You know, there's a depopulation agenda that's agreed upon, and then there are measures by Trump or anyone else to prevent death and maybe promote giving birth and having families. Well, that's a direct contradiction to the agreed upon agenda, the plan. So those people have to be neutralized. They have to be gotten rid of. Trump is the last hope we have for a state like California. I don't think even new leadership and new governor is going to be able to reverse this in time. She's given the city over to criminals. By not enforcing laws or making police impotent where they're afraid to do their jobs, you've essentially handed the city over to the worst people. Again, police are extremely afraid of arresting anybody that's black, so they don't. They don't. And they know that if they do arrest you, there's going to be a GoFundMe. They're going to pretend you're a victim. You're going to get out. They're going to get embarrassed. They're going to be brought up for review. They might get fired and they might get prosecuted just for disarming you or arresting you, however, because they're not allowed to do their jobs. That is not a civilized society. We can't live like that. And I'm one of those people that fled California because, yes, I could have stayed there and held the ground, but I'm also risking my life because it's dangerous to leave my house every day. Not because of police, not because of, crazy drivers, but because there's individuals in California there's no penalties for them robbing and killing you at all.
Of the Rich Rollin burglary crew. The operation took place last Wednesday.
At 5 a.m. on the 20th, teams from West Los Angeles area and Operations West Bureau, along with detectives from North Hollywood, West Valley, Olympic, Hollywood, Wilshire, and Central areas, served warrants at 8 residents across Los Angeles.
Take a look. This map shows you the neighborhoods across Los Angeles where the break-ins were happening. 92 took place in the city of Los Angeles, nearly half in West LA. An additional break-in was reported in LA County.
10 suspects, all adult career criminals with prior arrests for violent and property crimes, have been identified. 10 are confirmed gang members.
The majority of the home break-ins happened this year and last year, but some date back to 2022. Police officers recovered handguns, drugs, burglary tools, and stolen property from designer purses to wallets and jewelry.
So you hear who was arrested, but if you're a prosecutor and the city mayor is speaking like this,
It's my understanding that crime was going down in Washington, D.C. So what is the purpose of this? I'm very concerned about that. And not only that, I'm concerned about the way he is rolling that out in Washington, D.C., which is essentially essentially going after young black and brown youth in Washington, D.C., imposing.
The president is threatening to deploy more troops to other major cities, including Chicago and Baltimore, after his crackdown in the nation's capital. Melissa Dunn has the latest from Washington.
About 2,200 National Guard troops seen patrolling the nation's capital, spotted at train stations and outside national monuments. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says some of those troops are armed.
They're armed, capable of defending themselves and others if need be, supporting law enforcement, and we're proud to be there, sir.
The Guards stationed around tourist attractions and the metro, not in Washington's most high-crime areas, according to reports. Police officials say crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. Despite that, the president is calling the deployment of the National Guard troops a measure to address out-of-control crime in the nation's capital, also saying Chicago desperately needs help.
you think Chicago desperately needs help? Imagine what we need in Los Angeles. Do you know what this would do if we saw troops on Figueroa, Manchester, Normandy, all the way from the 10 freeway to the 105 freeway, from Slauson and Crenshaw to Western? If we had troop presence there, where the different gangs that are at war with each other knew that they would eventually have to go to war with the American military, then the wars would at least stop temporarily. Imagine what it would be like if we could go days or weeks without black people murdering each other in LA or in Chicago. We see what it's like in DC, and you got black people making videos talking about how amazing it is that Trump saved DC. See, black people are happy about the DC Trump. Let's see here. About DC safety. You know, there's actually, let's see here. Happy about DC safety.
I don't know if you saw the video about what's happening in DC and how the police basically raided a black neighborhood, but black people are under attack as usual. Okay, black people need white allyship in person.
That's a good point. Black people do need white people to come and protect them from each other. But there's actually a large segment of black people that are actually celebrating and telling Trump thank you, because they can now walk down the street safely without having to worry about being robbed and killed at night. They can go to parks. They can take their children to parks, which is something that has been unheard of in these cities. You know what's a shame? We live in the United States. One of our great American cities, they've turned it and they coined the term Chirac. Chicago, a beautiful American city, has fallen to criminality. And it's just like in Los Angeles. The mayor and the governor are both trying to keep the crime going. Now, at what point, even if the people vote in favor of lawlessness, does the federal government have to step in and say no? And the way it works is that the government cannot invade every city. They can't do it. They don't have the resources. And even though and if the Congress votes in favor of certain laws, a city cannot vote to ignore certain laws. So crime and murder is going to be illegal. Now, what these states are doing in these cities, they're decriminalizing crime. In these cities that are ran by Black Americans, they're actually changing the definition of what crime is to lower the stats, because certain crimes are no longer going to be considered crimes because they changed the definition. It's not that crime's going down. It's just that with the definition change, crime is no longer being considered criminal anymore. That's the play. There's a lot of money in keeping the crime going. There's a lot of money in holding these cities and states hostage. And there's power in there. There's power. And then you want the constituents who are living in these cities, you want them to vote for you because you want them to think that racism is actually more of a threat to them than someone who looks like them robbing and killing them and their children. And they're wrong. But they have to keep playing that game, and you have to fall for it. A lot of people are now starting to wake up from it, and they want different, but it's not enough. We do have to save people from themselves. But, you know, I'll be honest, this is the only problem so far I've ever seen in my life that you actually can vaccinate your way out of. Take it how you want to. We've got the results in DC. We need these results repeated in Chicago, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Jackson, Mississippi. We're going to need Trump to take back these American cities. We're going to have to stop these people from hurting each other. We have to protect them from themselves. We have to make this a policy, and we have to get people like this out of office. No more identity politics. Identity politics is killing our society. White guilt and white shame is killing our society. People are starting to, the shame, when you let someone convince you to let your guard down, it's a foolish mistake. You're being manipulated. This is a war. I'm going to need you to behave as such. Like and subscribe, share the video. If you have a counter opinion, or if you think that we need crime and, you know, we don't need to enforce it, we don't need to stop these people from killing each other, they should be able to wipe each other out, yada, 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 leave it in the comments. I do respond. We're on 6 different platforms right now. Wherever you're seeing this videos, leave a comment or come follow the YouTube, Right Wing Rico or the Single Boyfriend, Club Rico. I'll be back shortly with another story. Thank you, and we'll see you shortly.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.